And welcome back, Guardians, to episode 7 of Becoming Legend, a Destiny
What is
podcast.
up? Welcome back, everyone.
Today, we will be discussing Season 13, Season of the Chosen. Since the previous episode, we are about 2 weeks into the season. We've had some time to explore. We've had some time to read some lore. We've had some time to explore abandoned ships in outer space. We've had a lot of time to accept the fact that some of our favorite weapons were sunset and we're getting new weapons to replace those. I would actually like to start the episode by discussing changes to the gameplay. And I would like to ask you, sir, what changes this season are you liking and what changes are you disliking?
Right now, I think one of the biggest changes that I'm liking is this, both this approach to nerfing and the initial nerfs to stasis. As somebody who thinks stasis is perfectly balanced for PvE because it's supposed to be stupid fun, and we are Guardians and this is a superpower, I really wanted to see stasis be balanced in PvP because it just stopped being fun. It's really not fun to be frozen for 4 to 5 seconds when the slowest kill rate is about a second and a half for any of the weapons. So I was glad to see that they made that change and they started taking a deeper look into stasis and how it is affecting everything. The fact that you can double tap B now to break out, and that even if you're frozen, your health has been increased. I've just been a fan. I feel like I'm surviving more in PvP if I'm getting frozen or anything like that. I feel like it's not a guarantee that freezing somebody is going to be a kill, which also makes it harder if you do the fragment quest for Crucible, which is why I just don't do Crucible fragments anymore. But yeah, I that has been one of the biggest changes that the community has been asking for. And I've liked what I've seen so far. And I've also liked the fact that when they implemented that change at the beginning of the season, they also said that they were going to be taking a look at how this change affected everything and fine-tuning it from there. And I've just been really excited to see that that's kind of the direction that they're going to go into with it. What about you?
I have to agree with the main point that you were speaking about was the decrease in time to kill or time to freeze with stasis. Before, when stasis was first introduced, if you were frozen, I almost felt compelled to not even try. Like, you're going to die. Or you're going to press and hold circle and break out and have just enough health that if someone sneezes on you, you're going to die. But now you're right. Like, I have had more interactions where I live. I've had more interactions where I'm able to get away, to heal, to come up with a strategy where I can still be victorious in this situation. This week, we actually have the first Iron Banner of Season 13. I've only played a couple rounds. Usually I dive in, play hours. But, just in the time I've had to play so far, it does feel a little bit more balanced. I'm not getting stomped as badly as I was in the previous season. It's still stomp or be stomped in Iron Banner, but it feels a little bit more balanced. And I like to see the progress that they're making with trying to make sure the classes are a little bit more equal. And it makes me curious to see what changes they're going to implement, because Bungie has been discussing implementing similar changes to the light subclasses, your Arc, Solar, and Void. So I would like to see if they introduce aspects or different powers or how you can regroup which selection you're using at the moment.
Yeah, I think that is something that we're going to see as we continue to dive into. The big thing and why Beyond Light was so big and why sunsetting was such a big thing was because at the point in which Beyond Light came out, Destiny 2 was a 3-year-old game that had a lot of code in it that was no longer relevant. There was a lot of pieces of code that no longer applied. And then especially with a lot of the planets, you look at the EDZ, you look at Nessus, you look at the planets we lost in Mercury and Mars, those are planets that were built in year 1 of Destiny. And one of the biggest things that they did was an engine upgrade, and it's very hard to upgrade an engine of a live game. So I think that this has just been like another sign of like slowly we're going to get more and more content, and it's going to be something that we can be more excited about engaging with as things progress and as they continue to bring some of those old systems into this new way of doing things.
Absolutely. Now, one of the you mentioned a engine upgrade, and that brought to mind something that I was already excited to discuss: the new seasonal activity, the battlegrounds. I love the battlegrounds. Okay, I can't get enough of them. Even though some quests you have to do like 9 in a row just to get your powerful gear. You know what? I'm actually excited to do them. Why? Because one of the main ways I see Bungie progressing and increasing the difficulty and playability of the game is how many ads they can feature on the map at the same time. Whoa, you've never seen so many phalanxes in your life. It is insane. Like before you would have roughly 2 to 3 of a special enemy type and maybe 3 or 4 of those specific enemy types in those matches. So you would have maybe 24 to 30 ads on the field at once, where now as it feels upwards of 50 easily, like where you're looking around the map and there's nothing but enemies who want your head. And not only that, there's multiple species of enemies. The Cosmodrome battleground is my favorite. I love taking out the Cabal and the Hive, which is the main theme of this season. So, man, I can't get enough of the battlegrounds personally.
No, I've been loving the battlegrounds. I've been going in there. I think one of the first catalysts that I got to drop this season was the Skyburner's Oath catalyst, and so I've just been kind of grinding that out. And the best place to do that is in the battlegrounds. You know, and you're right. Like there is a bunch more enemies instancing in a single event that we are typically used to. Like, it's interesting. I don't know if you see them teleporting around as much. Every now and then you get one that like teleports across the map, and you're like, okay, cool. I wasn't just shooting you. You know, whatever. Like, you can go over there now. But I do like the battleground. I do like that it's a repeatable activity. Also, it's stupid fun to just go in there. Like, running battlegrounds is great because it's just, you know, what you're going to do is just hop in there and just shoot things. And that's really it. You know, like Destiny is at its best when I am just allowed to wreak havoc on everything that is around me. And battlegrounds just gives me the perfect outlet to do that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's so, it's amazing. For viewers and listeners who may not know, Battlegrounds, the new seasonal activity, is a defend the area type of mission where you have 3 separate areas. The first 2 are mostly ad defense. The second involves the destruction of 3 generators. Then you move on to the final act with the boss, and that's where they absolutely flood you with enemies while trying to take out the boss. In a way, for me, how it's different from previous activities and different than strikes and nightfalls. For me, with most strikes and even, you know, not the Grandmaster nightfalls, but up to the 1300 light levels, you can almost just run through it. You really don't have to fight the majority of enemies. There's no consequences really. So while you may have someone on your fire team who wants to take out every single enemy, you want to run past everything because you're just wasting time. But to me, I really like the battlegrounds because I feel like they try harder to match my skill level. There are moments where I am pushed out of an area where there are too many enemies and I have to retreat and fall back and come up with a new tactical plan in order to progress the mission. If I just run in, I'm going to die over and over and over. And I kind of like that even now as a higher level player, the current max is 1310. And my current light level is 1296, I want to say. So I'm getting pretty close. And yet there are still things that challenge me. I really enjoy that.
Yeah, I've been enjoying it. That's honestly, I've been running Top Tree Solar as a warlock. It gives me the ability to Icarus dash out. So that's pretty much what I do. Is I'm running Top Tree Solar so that if I find myself in positions to where I am being overwhelmed, and it happens a lot, like the easiest thing to do is just to jump up and Icarus dash backwards and kind of just like bring myself a little bit out of the situation so I can kind of go back into it. And that's how I've been approaching it. Like, I also Leroy Jenkins it, you know, like what does it matter? Like, you know, because also like 15 seconds, it's it's not a long time in the grand scheme of things. Like if you're running most other in-game level activities, there's a small cooldown before you even able to be revived, and it's like a 30-second revive countdown if you actually want to get back in. And this is 15 seconds. It's not as quick as, say, if you're on a strike and you're just like, oh, okay, we're back up, but it's long enough to where like your presence is missed in a way on the field. So I've been really liking it. I look forward to seeing what additional battlegrounds we're going to have, and who eventually we're going to face off against. Just bring them on.
That's right, because this Battlegrounds is not just an activity that we're doing just for the sake of shooting stuff. I mean, we are. The Guardians are. But overall, it's part of the arcing story for the season, which it's really interesting to see where it's going, because just 2 weeks ago, we had our ideas about what would happen this season, why Caiatl was really here. We were pretty convinced, at least I was, that the Xivu or Wrathborn hunts were going to somehow transfer into this, but that's not necessarily the case. And you find out the reasons why the Cabal are invading are not just the obvious ones that meet the eye. There's a lot of history going on with the Cabal that is given to us in the form of new lore books. One of the things that surprised me, and this could be the beginning of a talking point, was the discovery that the Cabal homeworld of Torobatl has been overrun by the Hive. Like
not just overrun by the Hive. I'll make a full confession right here and now. I'm not 100% sure of what all chapters of the lore books have officially been released in game for players to be able to unlock yet, but I've read all 3 new lore books that we've gotten.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
What happened on the Cabal homeworld that makes them come here is insane. for lack of a better term, it is crazy, because I remember when we had our conversation 2 weeks ago, I remember saying, like, we've been hearing that Torobatl is fallen, but is it really fallen, or is that just, the Cabal militaristic society that they are, casting off their home world to encourage their soldiers to fight harder? Like, there is no home to go back to. There is no retreat. There's only forward. But as we learned more this season, that is not the case at all. Xivu Arath found a way to corrupt the it's like the Evoken general or something like that. It is the person who was Caiatl's like mentor, who used to serve on Calus's war council, who was a part of the dismissal of Calus and the rising of Gaul to power. She gets corrupted by the darkness and by Xivu Arath. And like they talk about, she is removed, Caiatl is forced to remove her from the war council because a number of people come up to her and say, hey, have you gone and checked on her? There is a smell of death and decay emanating from her room, and no one has seen her, and we should check on her and make sure she's okay. And when Caiatl takes a look at her, she sees that she is experimenting on Scorn. And then later, she is going, I can't remember what Caiatl is doing, but her mentor walks out just like pretty much naked into the middle of the crowd and just starts spewing out how they should be worshiping a new god and all of this stuff, and it forces Caiatl to kill her. And killing her, the last thing that she does is opens a portal to the Hive, and the Hive come and overwhelm the world. And for the first time in Cabal history, Caiatl is very different than Calus, and Caiatl is very different than Gaul and the Praetorian and everyone that we've talked about in ways that we will probably discuss. But Caiatl sees that the only way for the Cabal to survive is to make a strategic retreat. And so that is what brings them to our system.
That's right.
Oh.
Now that very last statement alone, some of you listeners may be listening to the podcast and just heard one statement about retreat. What I hear is the Cabal are completely changing their structure, their system, their philosophy, everything. They're not only losing their home, their physical place where they live and rule and whatever. No, they're losing who they are, honestly, as a species. They're a war encouraged species, conquer or be conquered, and they've become conquered. We've heard in previous strikes that the Cabal do not have a word for retreat, and yet they're placed in a situation where it's retreat or die. You can stay and fight, but you will die. And what's the point? Who's going to remember your honor? That's why the Cabal retreat. And then, so with that in mind, you make a couple discoveries. One, you discover the true reason for the Cabal's exile from their planet or retreat. Two, you find out that the peace offering that was initially offered to us, the Guardians, or Zavala and Osiris in the cutscene, was legitimate. That she's not necessarily here to conquer and rule us in the way that her father would have. But at the same time, she is a Cabal Empress, and she cannot be seen as weak. There cannot be any weakness at all. So in her situation, the only thing she really can do is say, hey, I need you to help me take out our mutual enemy, but I need you to say I'm the boss. Even though I'm clearly outgunned here, I have no position to ask for this, but like, what else can I do? I'm the Empress, and I can't look weak in front of my species or my following, because as we know, the Cabal is actually a gathering of multiple species. Mm-hmm. One other thing that I wanted to highlight in your story is that whenever Caiatl's mentor was corrupted, I did a little bit of reading, and I believe it shows that Savathun was the one who actually corrupted her, who did the initial corruption and caused her to do all this pro-scorn speech and everything. And Savathun knows how important war is to the Cabal, and through that, she's able to summon Shifu Arath through the death of Caiatl's mentor. So that was absolutely correct what Mr. Tweezy said before. As soon as she kills her mentor, Savathun literally says, hey, sister, I got an offering for you. I got some war. You want some of this? Sister says, heck yeah, and just breaks into Tor Bottle, and just it's destruction. It's pure destruction, the likes of which the Cabal have never seen. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. It's insane. It's everything you want in a Destiny lore book.
Yeah, no, it was a great lore book to read. And again, like, the thing that needs to be emphasized is that obviously Caiatl becoming the Empress and leading her people away, even Osiris acknowledges it in the end game cutscene that you kind of see where you go up to the helm and they talk to each other. You know, Osiris comments that she has learned from the failings of her predecessors. You know, Gaul was very militaristic, but he was also very prideful, and he was focusing on not so much on what he could do for his race of species, but how he had been wronged and how he was going to capture the light in order to fix everything wrong that had been done to him because he was cast out. And similarly, you know, Calus just wanted the people to love him, and so that's why he attempted to bind them with things. Caiatl has a real understanding of what it means to be a leader. There's a lot of lore in the game. You know, blink and you'll miss it. Even the armor pieces that are seasonal armors this year have some very important lore, and it was something that just like, again, I don't want to derail us too much, but I would love to talk about Caiatl more and how she is completely different. Because there is a story of Acreus. You know, he is this legendary Cabal who conquered, I can't remember what kind of beast it was, but Acrius is Cabal legend because he alone defeated this massive beast that no one before him could defeat. And Caiatl was approaching a former Red Legionnaire soldier who had been defeated, had seen the power of the Guardians. Like they are very much aware of the power that Guardians have. When she comes to treat with Zavala, to ask Zavala to join the War Council, she knows that Guardians have taken down a Worm God. She knows we've defeated Gaul and that we, have fought for her father. Like, she knows everything about us. So she is not mistaken in thinking that she's in a position where she can actually demand that we bow. But she was consoling with one of these people who had failed. And again, failure is something that's hard for the Cabal to deal with. There is no retreat. There is no failure. There is either victory or death. And they're very much like the Hive in that way, where like nothing exists but death. But she was talking to this guy, and this guy is like, I imagine myself an Acrius. And then what she ended up doing was she consoled him and was like, listen, can I tell you the story of Acrius that I heard? Like the story that I heard is that countless Cabal faced off against this beast. And even though they all died, each member of the Cabal weakened the beast further and further and further until Acrius was able to deliver the final blow. And it's not a story about how Acrius is so much better than the rest, but a story of how the Cabal, when together driving towards a singular goal, can accomplish anything. And that's not a leader that we've seen in the Cabal ever. That's not really been a mentality of the Cabal. And so it's just really interesting as she, and her story begins to play out more and more as the season progresses. Like, she is someone to pay attention to in the decisions that she makes, because she is very much aware that everything that she does has a direct impact on her race. She is she is one of the last remaining Cabal, and she is doing everything that she can to protect as many people as possible. She frees the Scions from their servitude and says, hey, if you guys want to leave and go somewhere else, we will give you the tools to do so. But if you would like to stay with us, we would love for you to join us in this fight. And it's just, yeah. I needed to gush. It was a small fan crush. I'm not going to lie.
No, I think we all have fan crushes on Caiatl. Like, she's just absolutely amazing as an Empress.
Yes.
Good job, Bungie, really, in writing another strong character, another strong villain lead, and we get to see their side of stories and understand them a little bit more, understand their motives, and understand that just because someone plays the bad guy in the video game doesn't necessarily make them a bad person or a bad leader. And it's very interesting to see these motives being played out in the Destiny universe, especially the last thing that you said when she freed the Scions. Like, that floored me. They've been ever since they quote unquote joined the Cabal, they've basically been seen as psychic slaves and been forced to do psychic labor for various means. But that really caught me off guard. Like, she's a very well put together Empress, and it would be a shame to lose her. I don't want to try to predict too much, because now I definitely seen from the last episode that our predictions can be way off. But all I'm saying is I really, really hope that we see more of her than just this season. I hope we don't defeat her or something like that. I would love for us to maybe challenge her and win, but spare her, because I think the loss of Caiatl would be a detriment to humanity at this point, because she is the only one who could possibly say, hey, Cabal, stop fighting the humans, and they would listen. So if we ever want to have peace and unite the species against the darkness, she's our best chance.
Agreed.
Now, the antithesis of our best chance is still out there. Her father.
Yes.
Calus. He's out in space doing some crazy stuff, man. But It's kind of interesting because some of the things we've already discussed this episode have similarities to what Calus may be up to now. Namely, what I'm referring to is when Caiatl's mentor was in her room and she was doing experiments on the Scorn. Do you find that a little bit interesting that Calus is also experimenting on the Scorn?
I do and I don't. It makes sense. The Scorn are corrupted fallen. They've been given corrupted ether, and as we find out, as we learn about what Calus is doing, we learn that maybe the reason why they're being experimented on so much is because they share a stronger connection to the darkness. And they are a species worth studying a little bit more, because apparently it's more than just corrupted ether. That's all I gotta say is that apparently it's more than what we have thought, and they share a connection with the darkness that the mentor and that Calus are looking to exploit in order to find a way to defeat the darkness.
That's right. Definitely.
Calus, I'm not sure if he's on our side or not on our side or on his side. Like, I genuinely don't know what's going on with Calus anymore. And with what we have learned over the past week or so, I'm even more confused.
Absolutely. Now, audience, there are some things that we are aware of, but as Mr. XTweeziix said earlier in the episode, we're not entirely sure what is canon right now and what is to be released. So forgive us if this section is a little bit vague on the details, but I promise we will be able to follow up in episode 8, so please stay tuned. But one of the things we do know is Calus was doing these experiments on the Scorn, and he was successful in one of his experiments among hundreds of failed, where I'm talking each individual experiment involves a singular Scorn. So you can assume he's killing one entity for every experiment. Hundreds go by and they all die. But there was one success, and it doesn't exactly clarify what he's trying to do. We're able to kind of glean a motive perhaps, but not exactly why. It seems like Calus is trying to communicate with the darkness because the darkness. Okay, just a quick history of Calus. Sorry, it's a lot, and we got to try to sum it up to make sense. So Calus met the darkness on his Leviathan ship after he was cast out from the Cabal Empire. During that meeting with the darkness promised him, "Hey, if you go out and be my messenger, tell everybody I'm coming. Tell everybody the end is near, death is coming, and there's nothing you can do. Then I will reward you." Something like that, more or less. Well, the darkness is here. The pyramid ships have been here for about, maybe 8 months now? And where's Calus's power? Where's Calus's rewards? It really seems like Calus, to me, is showing a side of his character we haven't seen before. He's always presented himself as one who knows everything, who has all the answers. And now, quote, the end is here, and things aren't going exactly the way they were promised to him. It's going to be very interesting to see what comes out in the lore about Calus, what he's up to, what he's trying to achieve. Maybe the things he's told us about the darkness up to this point weren't necessarily true. But we'll be finding out these things for sure in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, because what we know about the darkness is that the darkness will also play on our fears and our weaknesses in order to make us bend to its will. And so Calus's biggest weakness is power and strength. And so we don't know what was promised. We don't know what's going on. But what we do know is that Calus doesn't feel like he got the fair end of the bargain. He feels as if he was promised something and it was not delivered to him. And so his actions that he takes, which some of these actions we knew he was doing as early as last season. There was rumors about Calus going and kidnapping Scorn off of the Tangled Shore and off the edges of the reef to experiment on. We've known about that for a little bit, but this communing with the darkness is something that's rather new. And so I know what happens, but I can't spoil it because I don't know how much everybody else knows. But let's just say that the most recent mission that has been added to the game and the catalyst that has been added to the game for I believe the gun is called the Dead Man's Tail, are pieces of lore that are very interesting because it kind of helps explain what Calus has been doing since he disappeared. You know, once the pyramid ships arrived, the Leviathan disappeared. It was no longer in the place where it used to be. We haven't spoken to or seen Calus since. And the Glykon ship in particular plays a big role in telling us where he's been and what he's been doing. And so as the weeks progress, if you have not gone and done that quest yet, if you haven't gone around and explored, I highly encourage it. Highly encourage it.
Agreed. I would have to say that I forget, is the Dead Man's Pulse? The Dead Man's...
I thought it was the Dead Man's Tail.
The Dead Man's Tail.
Dead
That's
Man's
it.
something.
That's it. Thank you. The Dead Man Tail exotic mission is one of the most fun singular exotic missions that I've played, period. And we're talking at least that I can think of off the top of my head, at least 5 or 6 separate missions for different exotics over the course of Destiny 2. And this one is absolutely the most fun. You can go in with a fire team of 3, or you can make the attempt to solo. Either way, I would say it's anywhere from 25 to 40 minutes of content. If you're going in your first time blind and you don't know where anything is or what to do, it's a series of mazes. There's jump puzzles. Yeah. There's actual puzzles where you need to flip a switch and then a light turns on the other side of the room. What does that do? You got to go investigate, shoot the light. What does that do? It opens another door. What does that do? Oh, it opens another door where there are these spore things. To visualize the spores, if you've ever seen a Scorn in your life, Destiny players, the little blue bubbles that grow on their skin have started to spread throughout the ship due to these experiments. And what you're able to do by shooting the blue bubbles is you get a buff. I forget the name of it at the moment. I apologize, but you get a buff. It does starts with an E. It's like entropic or englockic. It's a new Destiny phrase. I haven't seen it before. But what I believe is going on is by shooting these spores, you are able to become ascendant or some form of ascendant that allows you to pass through the barriers that they've placed to prevent you from succeeding in the mission and finding the gun. What this means from a lore perspective, to me, is that Calus's exploitations and experiments on the Scorn could be allowing him to build his own ascendant throne space. We already knew he has his own personal from the Leviathan, but we don't know the extent of it. We don't know the rules. If he gets killed in there, is that the end of him? Is that even the real Calus? Because all we saw was a giant floating head in the Leviathan raid. Might not necessarily be him. But it's interesting to see that the standard creatures of this Destiny universe are now able to cross the dimensional boundaries that only the most powerful could do before. And I've said it before, and I'll keep saying it again. Our enemies are getting more and more powerful, and it's scary when you think about it.
Yeah. You know, fun fact, you and I had completely different interpretations about what that was in the Leviathan raid.
Okay.
You know, my interpretation of that was that was nothing but a psionic projection, and that Calus was using the psions in order to create what we thought was an alternate world. Especially because as we learn more about the Cabal this season, there was a piece of the lore book that talks about Caiatl having a psion help run training missions where she was piloting, and she was in an empty room, and the psion projected into her brain these training missions of her flying a glider plane thing. I completely lost the word for a second there.
I think it was a glider. I think it was a glider ship of some sort.
So we know that the Scions are powerful enough to be able to create these kinds of illusions. And my interpretation of it was it was a psionic illusion. Either way, man, I am interested to see what his end goal is. Calus, as we experienced him on the Leviathan, as we continued to serve him in the menagerie, has dropped tons and tons of hints about growing fat with strength and how the light was a burden and how we didn't understand what was really going on. And so I think, especially this season and however this decides to conclude in next season and however we decide to continue to move forward, Calus is going to continue to play an important role. But what side will he be on? Who will he be with? Is he just serving himself? Is he trying to do what is right? Like, is he having a reversal and trying to do what's right for his race and attempting to rebuild Tora Batal and give the Cabal a home again? What he is doing, we don't know, but I am excited to learn and find out. I love this whole thing that you and I have been doing, Bird, where we kind of go back and forth and have our theories, and then something happens in the game that we're just like, oh wow, we were completely 100% off track. Like, we were nowhere close. And that's what makes me exciting is that as like we can read the lore, but as we look forward into the game and what's going to be coming, it just goes to show, man, like as much content as we may consume, we still don't know what Bungie has planned. But what I've seen so far, the future of Destiny is in good hands.
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. And with the things that they're doing in the greater lore expanded universe, I really enjoy how they're kind of swapping out the main villains that we focus on. And while you're busy paying attention to the new villain of the month or villain of the season, your other villains, the main ones, the main antagonists you've been hunting down for years, are in the background making moves that you don't even know are happening. And it's very amazing that we've found a video game series that after 6 or 7 years can still keep throwing in surprises. That as we are the most veteran of veteran players as they come. We're from the era where saying, oh, well, I played the beta actually meant something.
I was
so to have this many years in a series and still be surprised by it every day, every week is amazing to me. You're absolutely right. It's in a great place. Bungie's doing a good job. It really feels like it's about to get hot in here because they are building up to something big. What? We don't know. But they're bringing in major players that have been absent or haven't really been discussed and making moves. So it's what's going to happen in the next season, in the next year, in the next 2 years. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to continue to play this game.
Me too.
That's all I know
Me
to say.
too. I'm excited to hop back into some Iron Banner. I think that's what I might get into tonight after the episode.
All right.
Could be a
Sounds
good
like
idea.
A plan.
Could be a good idea.
I don't know yet. I don't know what my plans are for tonight. I might hop into the Iron Banner, but again, we know how Iron Banner is. It's stomp or get stomped.
Yes. Yes. Oh, Iron Banner fans out there, I have to tell you, Lord Saladin has more lines this season. In the Helm, the new social space where you can go to receive the new missions and follow the new campaign, Lord Saladin has multiple speeches. I think I've seen 2 or 3, and they're all great. He also has expanded audio dialogues in the Battlegrounds as well. So if you're a fan of the Iron Lords, Iron Banner, Lord Saladin, please check that content out because the man is back in the fray, back in the mix, and being active again. The Iron Lords are coming down from the mountain.
Yes. There is some lore. Again, I don't know if it's been released yet, so I don't want to divulge too much because while it is freely available for people to consume on the internet through websites like the Ishtar Collective, which does a great job of collecting all of these pieces of lore into an easy way for us to read them. Saladin is playing a major role this season. He is not just back to lead the Iron Banner, but he is also back and trying to help the Vanguard and Guardians see what's going on. Like he is here to try and help figure out what's going on, and he and this is going to be a topic for another day. I already can see that there is a difference in mentalities and approaches to situations between people who were alive and given the powers of the light in the dark days. People like Saladin who are Iron Lords. There's a difference between mentalities between him and Guardians like Zavala and Guardians like the Crow, Aldrin Song. There's a difference in approach to how all of them see the world and how things are. And he's a very cold and calculated man. Like it's kill or be killed with Saladin because of how he grew up. And so it's I'm interested to see as he plays more of a role if this is going to be something that leads to clashes. Like, we have more and more older Guardians from a bygone era coming in and we have Saint 14, we have Osiris who are, playing bigger roles. And I'm curious if that difference in age and that difference in mentality is going to lead to more than just a few small, snippets of dialogue here and there about them arguing amongst each other about the best way to do things. It's exciting. Saladin is back. I just want him to, let me go back to Fellwinter and not do that jumping puzzle again, but, just go and reclaim some more Siva. Like, I don't have enough Siva weapons anymore. That's all I want. Just bring me back to Rise of Iron.
That may actually happen this season. If I'm not mistaken, I believe we're supposed to get a total of 3 strikes, 2 previous Destiny 1, and a new one, which was supposed to be us going back to the Iron Mountain. Fellwinter's Peak. We'll see. We'll see.
There's
see.
Still
I know
they
things
fixed Fallen
coming.
Saber.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
they fixed that strike.
That's good.
That's one of the new things from today. But yeah.
That's good. And also, one last thing, you were really onto something there by saying that there may be a conversation or a clash of interests between the older Guardians and the new Guardians, and that's already expressed in the battlegrounds and if you revisit some of the missions on Europa when the Crow actually gets some dialogue. And god dang it, Bungie, you're starting to make me like the Crow. I really was trying not to, but he's a nice guy. But what I mean by that is there are points at the end of missions where he talks about his time among the Elixni and the way we talk about killing the Cabal, and we never can see them as people or species that we can co-live with, coexist, commingle. We're just, it's a Cabal, let's kill it. But he understands by really kind of quote unquote growing up with the Elixni as a new light that the Guardians' perspective isn't necessarily always the right one. And the Guardians are really quick to kill something just because we want some loot. That's literally our whole thing.
Yeah, it's there.
It was moving, I shot it. I don't know what else you want me to say. Whereas the Crow is like, no, that was an actual being and life is precious. And it'll be very interesting as time goes by and he tries to introduce these political ideologies into the tower, where will that crash with veteran members of the Vanguard?
Where will it clash with Zavala?
Yeah. What is Zavala even gonna do? He's been a little quiet. We'll find out.
We will find out.
In the meantime, Mr. Tweezy, in the 2 weeks until our viewers can hear from us again, where can they meet up with you and discuss Destiny content? Where?
If you want to discuss Destiny content with me, you can find me on Twitter at Taylor Zeller. I tweet about, again, a lot of things are video games. I have a breadth of interest in video games. Destiny is my main game, but it's not my only game. And, there were games before Destiny. It's hard to imagine.
There were games before Destiny?
What? But yeah. So I tweet about a lot of things there. If you want, you can catch me on my stream. I stream on twitch.tv/Tweezy. That's XTweeziix. Yeah. The X's are still cool. They're making a comeback. I'm going to own it now. I stream late nights, Fridays and Saturdays, Pacific time. So unfortunately for all of you East Coasters, like it is me asking you to stay up really late. But if you're on the West Coast, like I am, like just come chill out, hang out. We'll have some fun. We'll talk lore. We'll talk about what we know. As an aside, like if you don't want spoilers, I can't promise that I won't spoil things on my stream, but that's the price you pay. What about you? Where can they find you?
They can find me on twitch.tv/Birduup, BIRDUUP. I stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I pick a random day over the weekend to just pop in. Usually on Tuesdays, you can find a lore reading. I like to take, just a few minutes to read out loud one of the lore books and try to make sense of what's going on. Because, as we all know, there are many sources of Destiny, and you rarely find all the information you're looking for in just one source. So I would say if you are looking for a better understanding of the lore, previous and current, please stop by one of my streams. You can also stop by the Birduuup YouTube page, which is where we post the videos of these podcasts. Audio is released on Thursday, video on Friday. Audio, you get special privileges. We love you.
Hey, like if you guys subscribe to us on podcast services around the globe, Spotify, Apple, wherever, like you guys get the added benefit. You get our content early because you're who we really love.
Absolutely. We really love you. And one last announcement about why we love you is thanks to you guys and girls and guardians and space creatures. We now have over 100 downloads for our podcast. Yay!
We do.
We appreciate you so much for listening to us, for taking some time with us. We look forward to speaking in your ear some more, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
See you guys later.
Later.